Hello everyone, just a quick word from your friendly editor/husband. For all of you who listen to So I'm Watching This Show and own an Android device, do me a favor. Go to the Google Play Store and download the Podcast Republic app. It's a fantastic app that allows you to get all of your favorite podcasts directly on your Android devices. I use the app and love it. I can search for the podcasts I want to listen to, select them as favorites, and have them all just a click away. Make sure you set So I'm Watching the Show as a favorite so you don't miss any new episodes. Again, the app is Podcast Republic, available on your Android device. Thanks!
I would love if, like, Scooby-Doo characters was on Riverdale, or if it got its own sexy teen soap opera spin-off thingy.
Yeah, definitely.
That would be fun, wouldn't it? Like,
it would be super fun.
Because I think we talked about it once before, and you were like, how would they do Scooby? And I was like, he just wouldn't talk. Like, he could still
It would be like Salem on Sabrina.
Yeah.
But more prevalent, obviously.
Yeah, hopefully a little bit, with a bit more gumption.
Yeah. They could use Salem a lot more on Sabrina.
Yeah. Remember when he had, like, powers?
Yeah, it was great.
The pilot episode.
I miss when he was a little gremlin.
Mm-hmm. Goblin, my
bad.
Gremlins are on planes. You need to know that kind of stuff if we're going to talk. Yeah.
Since when?
Since they were created in, like, the 40s and stuff.
Oh.
That's a gremlin in the Twilight Zone episode.
Oh, okay. All right. I was like, Will, those are called Langoliers.
No, those are things that eat yesterday. Are you going to challenge? You come into my house?
No. I just know that because I watched that Langoliers miniseries, and it, like, the climax is, like, at the airport.
Yeah, no. It was like World War I and World War II when things would go wrong with, like, the planes. They said gremlins did it. And
gotcha.
A lot of times it was, war profiteering.
Sure, of course.
That is where gremlins came from. I think, now that I've made such a big fucking to-do about it, hold on.
A few moments later.
Yeah. That causes malfunctions in aircraft or other machinery. Okay.
Oh, well, I did not know that, so thank you.
Scooby-Doo-Doo! Oh, that was terrible. Ugh. Put that on the list of things I can't do. Hello, everybody. I'm Will.
And I'm Kristen.
And this is So I'm Watching Scooby-Doo.
Woo!
I'm excited and scared. For this episode. Oh, that actually kind of works. I was joking scared because I loved these movies when I was like 15 and I'm afraid to revisit them. But the scared also works because it's scary.
I mean, I guess.
Do you have memories from childhood that stick with you to a profound, like, if you say Scooby-Doo, my very first instinct is that's too scary. I can't watch it.
I mean, not about this, but yes.
I immediately go, oh, no, wait, I love it. But because it was one of my early favorites. And like, I loved Scooby-Doo. I think it was the colors. I think the way that the four of them and then Scooby were color blocked, I just found very visually appealing.
Sure, yeah.
And I think that was a direct route. But I was an infamous scaredy cat. And so I think having something scary that I could stomach made me feel like I was accomplishing something.
Okay.
But yeah, I loved it. And actually, I do have a funny story one time because it's one of the few times I actually got in trouble. My mom wasn't one for punishments. But yeah, I forgot what I did, but I did something when I was like 6 or 7, or I had to have been maybe even 5 or 6. And she was trying to punish me, and she told me that I couldn't watch America's Funniest Home Videos for a week. And I was like, that's okay. Scooby-Doo's my favorite show anyways. And at 5, I hadn't quite leveled up to the point where I didn't just like, I literally have the memory of her being like, oh, curses. And no, she just said, okay, then Scooby-Doo. And I thought, you can do that? But yeah, I have a very vivid memory. And so, of course, Andrew needed to watch it that day. He had to like make a point that he was watching it when I couldn't.
Yeah, that sounds right.
But yeah, so do you have a history with Scooby-Doo at all, or?
No, not really at all. Sorry. That's it. You made me watch the movies like 10 years ago at least.
So you have seen them?
I have seen the movies, yes.
I couldn't remember. Oh, so you like didn't watch the cartoon or anything?
No.
Oh,
I was sorry.
Yeah, I watched like all of it.
No,
Like,
I watched a lot more of the like weird cartoons when I was a kid. Like I watched David the Gnome and Eureka's Castle, which I know is not a cartoon, but those are the type of things that I watched.
Scooby-Doo's so normal, but
well, Scooby-Doo is a lot more mainstream than David the Gnome.
There were several versions, because there was like a weird version where it was just Daphne, Shaggy, Scooby, and Scrappy.
Ew.
And then,
I've never watched a lot of this, but I know that that's not a combination that's great.
Well, it's like they just made Daphne smart for some reason, and which is actually one of my biggest gripes about the movies is I love Sarah Michelle Gellar, but that's not Daphne. Whatever she's doing is not the character of Daphne.
They were capitalizing on the Buffy.
Yeah, they make her like a girly girl, like a bimbo, and
yeah, they were capitalizing on Buffy.
Sure, but
I said what I said.
I remember being through the roof for it, and the first couple of pictures of it looked so good, and the casting was so good, and I remember loving the movie. It like the first one came out. I remember thinking it was a bold choice. It was a weird, because it was sort of like Scooby-Doo goes on vacation, which is like you expect that from like, you know, a fourth season summer special. But like to come out of the gate with that being the movie, I was like, you didn't want to do something more standard?
Like it's not even the Very Brady sequel. It's like the first one.
Yeah. And I was like, this feels more niche. But I was in California with my friend Kirsten, and she indulged me and went twice to the movies to see it. I would have gone more times, and she put her foot down,
Christ.
which is correct.
Yeah,
which was the correct decision. And then the second movie came out, and I saw it in theaters, and I really liked the second one. I remember the second one being much better and it feeling like a Scooby-Doo movie. And then a group of us went to Ocean City, and it was like I was 18 by that point. So we were like all like 16, 17, and 18. And my mom just stayed in a hotel room, like a floor down.
Nice.
It was fun. It was like kind of, we were getting away with shit. And on our way back, I made everybody go to the movies and see Scooby-Doo.
You are a nightmare sometimes.
I can't believe they did it. I literally can remember with like all of them sitting in there, like Whitney and Siobhan just being like, because Whitney could only come because my mom, we told her that Whitney would be staying with my mom. So sorry, Mrs. Munns, if you're listening, but
nice.
Because this is also the same trip where I bought Kill Bill Volume 1 on DVD because it had just come out, and then I made them watch it. They thought it was weird.
They would think it was weird. Do you know how I watched Kill Bill Volume 1? By myself at home while my parents were house hunting in another state, and then I took myself on a date to see Volume 2. I dressed up in everything.
Yeah, well, I would say that I've like toned down, and I have as a person. I have toned down, but I am still forcing people to watch things that I really enjoy. So
that's like 90% of this podcast is you making me watch something because you have a wild hair about it.
So on that note, we're gonna watch the first two. We haven't even mentioned Scoob.
No, we are doing this because we're gonna watch Scoob when it comes out for streaming. So, but we were like, let's watch the old ones too, see how they hold up.
I'd been threatening to for about a year. I was seeing GIFs, and I was like, are these one of the things like the Brady Bunch movie that are gonna come back? And I don't think so, but it's a thing. It's a genre. It's colorful.
We also should bring back the Brady Bunch movies.
I want to, because I was too young from the first one when I saw it. I remember it made me feel weird. And so I want to see it now that I understand satire.
Yeah, we should definitely watch them. I think you'll love it.
So on that note, let's go watch the Brady Bunch.
Okay.
Scooby-Doo.
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 Don't do it again.
From Warner Brothers Pictures,
Mystery Inc. reunites.
Scooby and his crew are back on the case.
Run! I'm trying, buddy.
And now, on an island of mystery,
Welcome to Spooky Island.
they have
Monster! A monster?
no clue.
We're here to solve a mystery.
But only one stands on all fours.
Thank you. Hello. Thank you.
Scooby-Doo.
No one is stupid enough to believe that.
Who's the ugly old broad?
Well, we are back, and I don't quite remember how we framed the beginning of the episode because it's been a few days, but we were originally going to talk about each one separately, and then we just decided to do them together. And with the benefit of hindsight now, I do wish we had gone ahead and talked about them separately. I think we'll manage, but... So this hits differently for me several ways over, especially considering I just assumed you were a Scooby-Doo person, and I found out in our intro that you have next to no feelings about it. So just kind of immediately I was like, womp womp.
Yeah.
Like, the only real joy you would get out of the movies was if you were familiar with the costumes. Let's be honest.
The costumes, yeah. The cartoon, though. I know what you meant.
Yeah. So, do you have any broad notes, or do you want me to?
So these are for kids.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, and I
Apparently.
mean, yeah, no, these are definitely for kids. And I mean, we were 15 when the first one came out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I mean, it's just sort of like, or no, we were 16 or 17 when the first one came out. I don't know. I feel like I would have been too old for this when I was 16. It's not that I think it's bad, but it's definitely not for me. And I know that that's the way the cartoon is and everything, but it's really not sophisticated with the storytelling. I have a feeling, and I would love to come back to this thought once we watch Scoob. I have a feeling that I don't believe human people can sustain this. Like, I think it has to be a cartoon.
Okay. Interesting, actually.
With the exception of Matthew Lillard, who is so perfectly cast.
I love live action takes on cartoons, which is funny because they rarely work, but yet I still think that I get a joy out of it. But then again, I mean, I feel the same joy in theory with the Disney live action. Like I like seeing something interpreted the same way that, I mean, if I see a live action movie, part of me wants to see it drawn. Like I want to see what animation of that would look like. I appreciate
the swing, I guess, but it was a miss for me.
So I actually have a lot to say. These were products of their time.
100%.
In a bad way, yes.
100%.
They have their foot in the 90s of it all in a way that, you know, the early 2000s were a transition period, to say the least. They are very surface level. It's very, you know, face value, point blank, in a way that we talk a lot about how comedy and storytelling and tone and stuff changes, you know, through time and through generations and stuff, where these are kids movies in the sense that they are movies for children. Yeah. Nowadays, for many kids movies, it's kind of an unspoken understanding that they are watchable or should be watchable by adults. It's like we're living in a world of, you know, Toy Story 3 and 4 and Trolls and Pixar. It's like there's a lot.
And I mean, to be honest, I would rather watch that movie Storks like 10 more times before I sat down and watched this again.
There's quality, yes.
Yeah.
I have specifics that I want to say about each of them, but I am going to go ahead and come out of the gate and stand by my initial predicament that I find the second one significantly better.
I think the second one is certainly more watchable, and I think it deals with more like specific ideas.
It's a Scooby-Doo movie. I don't know what that first one is, but it's not a Scooby-Doo movie. Do you know what I mean? Like,
well, it also, I don't know if this is the way the show operates, but it was like both movies had all four of them at odds with each other right out of the gate.
Yeah, it is not how the show works.
I didn't think so. And so it felt really weird where I was like, why are you breaking up this team immediately both times? It just feels like a weird place to start.
Because it's funny because you said that you don't think that this can be done live action. And I'm the kind of person where it's like, I think that if we were to make these movies now, keeping, you know, via magic or science, however, keeping most of the same parts, I think they would be better if we made them now. Because I think we would start with the story and with the script. Because these movies are both of them are counting on the fact that you not only are familiar with the cartoon, but that you love it. Yeah. Like the mere existence of it should delight you. It doesn't do a lot to earn you if you're a newcomer, which a movie honestly should. I'm going to go ahead and say the first movie's terrible. I want to take this time to formally apologize to Kirsten for making her sit through this twice. I don't know how I sat through it twice. I actually had very little memories of it. Most of the stuff I remembered were from the second one. So I echo my sentiment from earlier that I think I was mostly just responding to the color and to the spectacle of it. And again, I was 16. So it's like that was still a transitional point for me, especially Freddie Prinze Jr. and Sarah Michelle Gellar are miscast. Linda Cardellini, because Matthew Lillard has always gotten a lot of praise. I think Linda Cardellini never quite got enough praise.
No, her Velma is also very good. She puts on a really good voice for it. I agree about Velma. I just think because obviously Shaggy's such a larger character.
Yeah. And if you want a perfect example, in my opinion, as to why the second movie is better than the first one, is because in the first one, within the first 10 minutes, she just sort of like falls over and it's like, my glasses, like she can't find them for apropos of nothing. But then in the second one, that's like a third act, like she fell down a trap door type situation. Right. And so it's like even it's just earned from a story perspective in the second one.
Yeah,
and I feel that way hand over. Like I was genuinely laughing yesterday as an adult human watching the second one. Not a lot, but I chuckled at some. Even, I mean, another example, the fart jokes. The fart jokes in the first one was Scooby and Shaggy having a farting contest. And the fart joke in the second one was Scooby was so scared he tooted. And it's like, that's a joke. That's funny in a way that like the first one, that's not funny. That's just juvenile potty humor.
Yeah.
Like, so it's like, I will go to the grave arguing that the second one is so much better. But
I support that. I co-sign that. I don't know that I could say so much better because it's so much the same.
Hand over fist.
I do agree that it is
better. The costumes are better.
Yeah.
The sets are better. Like
it's absolutely an improvement all around. But I can't say that it's such a better movie because it's very the same.
I wrote a few notes down and then I stopped, and I kind of wish I had kept, but that's regardless, neither here nor there. So I said, I'm 5 minutes and 37 seconds into this movie, and I already have so many questions. I was like, what is this world? I was like, so the Scooby Gang is legitimately famous? And I was like, Pamela Anderson?
Yeah.
And Pamela Anderson dolls. What?
What?
What reality is this? And I mentioned to Will yesterday, I don't remember if you were there, but I was like, I think there was, and I don't think I actually know this to be true, but there was behind the scenes with the first one, a production dispute, and it was originally intended to be more of a PG-13, like Brady Bunch thing.
Okay.
And because there's a joke that, or not a joke, but there's a story, an anecdote that goes around this, because James Gunn wrote the script for both. Yep. And they're like, the first draft was rated R, and it makes it sound really, really like it was really vulgar, and it wasn't. It was some stupid joke that they're like, if you do that, the movie will be rated R.
Ugh.
Like it was like a pot joke or something. But it was at the beginning of production significantly tamed, and I think you can see that. I think because the premise of going to like a college spring break island, I think you can tell it was originally intended to be more mature.
A college spring break island with house band Sugar Ray.
Get up, get up, get up, get up.
Pick you up and take you where I wanna. Get up, get up, get up, and gonna pick you up and take you where I wanna. La 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 la.
I don't remember the song. I had both these soundtracks. I remember both soundtracks being like event soundtracks, and they probably weren't. But
they are. Okay, here's the thing is I am nothing if not a pop punk apologist, but these are so pop punky.
Get up, get up, get up.
In like, yeah, it was so much. Like the credits on the second movie were rolling, and I was like, "Who is this?" And Will was like, "It's a Simple Plan, is it not?" And I was like, "Probably, to be honest." And it definitely was. It just was. It's so much pop punk in these soundtracks, and it really in a way that feels incongruous with the source material, because they still are dressing in like kind of a mod 60s way. It's very weird. Like the settings of them and the music and the like.
That I'll say with the second one, it was a more tangible universe. It kind of felt like, I mean, we had the town of Coolsville and we got a sense of who their media was and who the citizens were. And it's like, this is the old abandoned mine. And it's like, and it also went, it definitely had the mod angle, but it like also, because I said their compound looked like the set of TRL.
Yeah.
Like it was way more Josie and the Pussycats. I'll say that. And frankly, I want more. I wish they had leaned slightly even more into it, because you also have to keep in mind that the very premise of this show is absurd, because it's a scary show that posits that you have to be legitimately afraid of ghosts, but also ghosts aren't real. And every ghost story is a criminal.
Sure.
And every criminal is a ghost. It's just such a strange reality where it's like, if there was like a string of like more than 3 crimes in the city of Orlando where people were dressing up like a ghost.
Yeah, like, I get it.
So you kind of do have to create your own reality, in which I think the second one does a much better job, because the first one, i.e. Pamela Anderson and the college, like it's insinuating that these people are in the real world.
Right.
And they're also, like I said, I mean, they're so mischaracterized, especially Fred and Daphne, and especially in the first one, because Daphne is not a like vanity, like mean girl. She's not a pretty, like Daphne is Betty Cooper. Like Daphne and Fred are preppy. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the way that they have Sarah playing her and the way it's written is just off. And because that's the other thing, is they're never explicitly a couple.
I know, which is so weird, aren't they?
No, it's only inferred in the show.
Oh,
and the movie takes it way, which it's fine. I think that's the natural conclusion. Fred isn't quite as vain and arrogant either. Like there were no, and I think that's fine. I think to give them character types is fine. And I mean, the Daphne being the martial arts expert is extremely pandering, and it's very Sarah Michelle Gellar in this time.
Well, yeah, it's very like, hey, you had all that training for Buffy. Let's like put that in here. And it's like, but why?
It does make a fair amount of sense for someone in the gang to actually be a fighter.
Right.
And I guess it makes as much sense for it to be her as anyone. But that's the other thing is about Daphne being a damsel in distress. It's like, where that does happen, the keyword, like the slogan they use is they call her danger prone Daphne. So it's like she's supposed to be kind of klutzy.
Yeah.
And that is never uttered or apparent in either movie.
Yeah, right. And the one thing, there's a couple moments, there was one in the second one too, and I don't remember what it was, but there is the moment where she's doing all the martial arts in the first one and she's like kicking the guy down the tube or whatever, and he says something to her, and her answer back is straight up, and it doesn't even make sense in context.
Now who's the damsel in distress? Me? Straight up.
It's like not the words you would say back to his question, and I just was like, what? It was so bizarre.
I know the scene you're talking. I don't remember, but I know the scene you're talking about.
So bizarre. I just was like, why are you?
It's like catchphrase first school of script writing. Like,
yeah, it very weird.
Well, and furthermore, it's like they stuck with things in weird ways where it's like when Isla Fisher, God bless her, this was her first big credit, I think. But when she sits down and then is not only eating the Scooby snacks, but confesses to the fact that she's eating the Scooby snacks. And we have a full-blown, like, Showgirls doggy chow moment.
Yeah.
Oh, I used to love doggy chow. I used to love doggy chow, too.
You could have just made them crackers.
Yeah, right? Like, why are they not just cookies? Why is it not just a cookie?
And
just like an animal cracker, Scooby snacks.
That's what I always assumed they were in the cartoon, was animal crackers. And the big climax at the end, which I will give the first movie credit for doing something interesting, which is bringing actual magic in, like actual supernatural shit in.
Sure.
It's happened once or twice in the animated series, but more often than not, it's, criminals and science, like And that big set piece at the end with Scrappy Doo, I guess it's ambitious. I can't in any capacity bring myself to say it's clever because, and I mean, it's in on its own joke, but it's like the thing is nobody likes Scrappy Doo. So even making him the villain, it's still gonna bum everybody out.
Yeah, right.
Like,
especially because he keeps calling it puppy power.
That's from the cartoon.
Yeah, I don't like it.
Puppy power. Yeah, it was awful. I mean, that's why they make those jokes on like The Simpsons and Family Guy and stuff when they like randomly bring in like a kooky cousin of a character.
Yeah.
Because there's also, thank God we weren't subjected to Scooby Dumb.
Oh, was that a thing?
Scooby Dooby Dumb. Yeah.
Oh, no.
I'm going to keep doing impressions. Don't worry.
I can do my Velma. I felt pretty good about my Velma.
Your Jinkies?
No. Although I do say Zwanks a lot. No, when I was like, my glasses. I can't see without my glasses. She did it so many times in the first one. And I was like, props to Linda Cardellini because she's like selling it. But I just was like, oh no, my glasses.
There just was so much conflict in the first one, and it was a lot of telling, not showing in a way that like the second one was showing. Like I felt like I genuinely felt, and they were light, but I felt the emotional stakes of the second one where I do not in the first one. Like,
sure.
And what I find confounding about these movies is that the first movie has a budget of $80 million.
That's insanity.
That is a lot of money for the time. When you consider a year previously, The Fellowship of the Ring was done for $93 million.
Right.
On par?
No, I mean...
The first movie looks so cheap.
But something also tells me that Scooby-Doo did not have access to the Weta Studios, visual effects team.
Well, they filmed in Australia.
That's true. They did film in Australia. I don't know, man.
But yeah, the budget for the first one is $80 million. It looks so cheap. I have seen freeform movies that are better produced.
Do you suspect it was, I mean, it was right in the heyday. Do you think a lot of it might have been budget or, salary for Freddie Prinze Jr. and Sarah Michelle Gellar?
Possibly, probably.
That introduces its own problems, to be honest.
It really does. Because there's a point where like the credits start rolling and Freddie Prinze Jr. is first billed. And I'm like, I honestly don't know what I expected, but it wasn't that.
Well, Will leaned over to me, or not, he didn't lean over. We were just sitting at home and he just was like, do you remember the time when we were alive and Freddie Prinze Jr. was first billed on a major studio movie? And I was like, in fact, I do remember that time. It was wild.
I mean, I guess Matthew Lillard, but even still, it's odd.
Because today it would absolutely be Linda Cardellini.
Yeah, if we're keeping these pieces, then yes.
Yeah.
Do you want to know how much the second movie? Okay, well, between the two, which one do you think looked better?
I feel like I do think the second one looked better until that like tar monster at the end was like holding all of them, and then it was kind of bad.
I mean, that's a little sketchy, but frankly, most of the second one, most of the ghosts, I think look fine. I think they look great.
I agree. The second one looks better.
The second one cost $25 million.
What?
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was going to be more.
No.
Unbelievable. So like 1/4 of the budget of the first one.
Yeah.
Unreal. Wow.
And way better.
Way better, yeah.
I can't make heads or tails of any of that.
It's bonkers.
And they bring in Seth Green and Alicia Silverstone and Peter Boyle and Tim Blake Nielsen and like
wow.
I just think the second one just works better all over. And especially as someone who watched the cartoon growing up, because every one of those monsters is from the cartoon. Okay. And they were very, I'll go ahead and say brilliantly realized in live action. I just understood the conflict of it more. I thought the mystery was better. The fact that we had, a solid 3 or 4 suspects, you know what I mean? I remember being genuinely surprised by the Alicia Silverstone reveal the first time I saw it.
Sure.
I mean, were you or?
No, because you have made me watch it before.
Okay, true.
This is not the first time I've seen these movies.
Mm-hmm. I forgot.
I liked kind of the like interpersonal things because I thought I mean, they handled it with all of the elegance of a bull in a china shop, but the stuff with Velma and like not feeling like she's like pretty enough for a boyfriend and stuff like that, that's like something to address in a movie for children. And the stuff where Fred, unbelievably, especially in the year 2020, hearing a man on screen say talking's for wimps is astounding. But they do then deal with that attitude.
Well, and also, I mean, to me, that you guys were like, were taken aback by that, where I just thought it was funny. I thought it was a commentary on.
Well, yeah, I mean, it was. And so that's the thing where I was like, with all the deftness of a bull in a china shop, but they were addressing things that are real concerns for children and their parents, where it's like, you don't have to change yourself into what you think someone else is going to like in order for them to like you. And no, boys need to talk about their feelings too. And so it's like they're doing something worthwhile.
Because there's a scene in the second one where Vilma is hiding from Seth Green because she likes him. And again, she thinks she's not good enough. And she's crawling around on the floor. And Daphne gets down on the floor and crawls around with her. And they have this like sweet little Bechdel test like moment where, because that's a thing that is like ingrained in us is the desire to pit Daphne and Vilma against each other.
Right.
And both movies, the first one leads into it a little bit, but I mean, they avoid that urge, which I am surprised by. But like I said, I think if the movies were made now, I think that there would be way more. I think they would be way more sophisticated and a lot deeper, because I do think that there are depths there. And I think that's also my issue with changing Fred and Daphne's characters. I'm like, if you were going to go ahead and change them and give them more of a like archetype, then I wish you leaned in more. I watched a little bit of the special features from the first one. And they were waxing quite poetic about how the characters needed to be 3-dimensional and how they couldn't just be like, you know, the cartoon 1-dimensional stuff. And I mean, I don't know what they were looking at because I found it incredibly 1-dimensional.
Yeah, it's really, there's like not a lot there. I mean, and Fred and Daphne don't even like kiss or hold hands.
I thought they did.
They?
In the first
Maybe
one.
I missed it.
I think at the end.
And I mean, God love Sarah Michelle Gellar and Freddie Prinze Jr. for that matter, but like, no.
But even her thing, like when they're stuck in the ball with the thumbprint key, lock key or whatever.
Yeah.
And she takes out the pore strip and like puts when she does all that checks. Like that actually felt like, okay, interesting. And even just her line that I enjoy being a girl. It's like,
yeah, I agree with you, but that's the only instance.
Sure.
Like they could have leaned into that part of it. Like, why can't Daphne MacGyver more stuff, you know, with her girlishness? That's like lean into that stuff. Velma's really smart. Fred's really charming. Shaggy stumbles into all of the stuff. Why can't Daphne be like a Lady MacGyver? I just, that's the kind of stuff where it's like, I love Sarah Michelle Gellar. I think she's actually capable of great heights as an actress. And I just think she doesn't get the opportunity. And it's a real, and not like I'm saying she was going to reach great heights in the Scooby-Doo movies, but it just is such a bummer watching her be so ridiculous. It's just a bummer watching her watching these two movies was like spending 3 hours watching the like dumbest episodes of Buffy. Where it's like, you know, the one with the eggs and it's just like, okay, like fine, but I don't want to again. And I think that if I'd come out of these movies feeling like I couldn't wait to have a good time and watch them again, that would be one thing. But I'm just like, well, no, now I've watched them as even more of an adult than last time and they're even less like relevant to me. And because I don't have that nostalgia, it's like, you know?
So basically you would need kids who were into it for you to really kind of have any future with this franchise.
Correct. Yes. And but again, I do think I'm going to enjoy Scoob more.
It's split down the middle, the reception.
Is it? Okay.
It's 50. Yeah.
I don't know. For some reason, it really feels like these characters are a lot more suited to a world that is fully fake.
Yeah. I get it.
I just that's what it is to be, or it needs to be like they need to be children or teens playing them. Like, I mean,
proper teens.
Matthew Lillard and Linda Cardellini were at least 30 when they were making these movies. So it's like, oh God, it's just a lot. That's sort of where I'm at.
Okay, cool. Well, like I said, I stand by these are fine movies. If you are nostalgic for Scooby-Doo or if you have kids, I am hard flag in the sand. I think the second one's actually just good.
I think it's fine, but it's again one of the things where like I don't feel the need to watch it again.
The Rotten Tomatoes for the first movie is 30 and the Rotten Tomatoes for the second movie is 20. And I'm like,
so no, I disagree with that.
I was like, the second movie is like a 45 or 50 if you ask me. But
for sure.
Yeah, we're going to watch Scoob. I have the basest of expectations. So I think they're going like aliens or something. It's weird.
Interesting.
We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
I felt medium about it the whole way through. So we'll see. The first trailer, the jokes were pretty light and
these ones were heavy hitters.
Yeah, it's like because this is a concept. You know what I mean? There's shit to mine here, but
I mean, yeah.
We're not dealing with Miter 49ers, so. So okay, well, we'll return with Scoob.
Okay, bye.
Hey! This mangy stray's coming with me.
He's not a stray.
Okay, then. What's his name?
His name's Scooby.
Middle name?
Doobie?
Last name?
Do.
Gentlemen, welcome aboard.
I guess our new movie is an origin story.
Every hero should have one.
I want The Rock to play me.
Never gonna happen.
Okay, as whatever uber topical garbage pop song is playing that we'll pick to transition us between the two. Some kind of like hieroglyphic of rappers. There's got to be at least a minimum of 3 people on the song.
Sure.
And one of them, there has to be a capital letter and a special characteristic and at least one number.
I heard 3 people just singing. So there has to be more people than that on the song, featured on the song.
So which Kazakh featuring Heckministon and then N plus H4 and
oh man,
let me date myself really bad. Okay, well, we just watched Scoob.
Yes, we did.
I thought that was a colossally stupid title when it was announced.
Yeah.
And I stand by that assessment.
Okay.
So what did you think?
I liked it.
Did you?
I thought it was cute. Yeah. I stand by my prediction that I think this is a property that lends itself more to animation.
I found it to be a deeply triggering.
Well, yes. Okay. So you have some personal reasons.
I quite literally lost my dog of 12 years last week.
Yeah.
This is 7 days ago. And so this movie was rather...
It was a lot.
rather triggering several times, not just the once. It was like 3 times over. It was fine, and especially for families, for children, for anyone that doesn't really have any stake in this. I didn't particularly like it. I was actively... I liked the beginning, the very beginning, because that was a Scooby-Doo movie. Mm-hmm. Why it's apparently so hard to get a Scooby-Doo movie, I don't know.
I feel like that is a similar thing where I think it lends itself to animation, but I also think it lends itself to short form. And so trying to make a really big story is sort of the...
I don't know. I mean, I never saw Monster House, but isn't that a whole movie?
Well, I don't know that that's an equivalent.
It's an animated movie about kids with a haunted house.
Yeah, but I don't think that's an equivalent. And so I think there's something about the like short form detective-y stuff about Scooby-Doo that when they try to make it like a large scale world ending catastrophe, I don't know that it translates.
Well, by the end of this movie, I thought it did, because it got me back in the end when they were actually dealing with the mythos. It's like I didn't realize that this was like gonna be the launch of like a Hanna-Barbera cinematic universe.
Is it?
Oh, well, all those characters are pre-existing Hanna-Barbera characters.
Oh, okay.
Is this a blind spot for you? A cultural blind spot?
Okay. I have seen the cartoons that everybody sees, but I was not a cartoon child.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't like wake up on Saturday mornings and watch cartoons.
Yeah, those are all. So, I mean, I didn't watch all of them either. I was aware of them. And remember how I talked about, I mean, I was a TV aficionado at an early age. And remember, I've talked about how I had CDs of like all of the theme songs and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, I'm aware of the Archies as a concept. I wasn't watching it, but it's like, I know the song because I listened to the CDs and stuff. And so, yeah, the Captain Caveman and Dick Dastardly,
Oh, okay.
all
Yeah,
of that
see, I
is
didn't know that.
Hanna-Barbera cartoons.
I was just watching a cute movie about a group of friends and their dog, man.
Oh, I was real eye-rolly. I felt the corporate synergy, and I was kind of like, this is super weird. I would have much preferred to watch. Because again, DC and the Justice League conundrum, it's like, if you're going to do a cinematic universe, then you got to start somewhere. I mean, we didn't have all of the Avengers in Iron Man 1.
Right.
I didn't get the Falcon, any of that stuff. None of that worked for me.
Oh, it was fine.
I mean, fair, fine. I liked Fred. I think Fred is easily the best part of the whole thing.
Fred was very good. It was in a very like Bobby Brady or no, sorry, Greg Brady, and like by way of
the 90s.
Donny Osmond.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. And like Ken from Toy Story.
No, Fred was easily the best part. Daphne was fine. This was more like what she's like in the cartoon.
Yeah.
Vilma was a bitch. I don't know what that was. Like,
it's Gina Rodriguez.
Okay. And I was really not liking the animation at first either. I thought the animation was really cheap, and it was especially colorful. So by the time they started making some stylistic choices, it like won me over.
Yeah.
But there were a handful of baffling. I don't understand the Simon Cowell cameo.
That was really very strange. I'm with you on that one.
Because that wasn't even timely 4 years ago when they started this.
No,
so
definitely not.
I don't know what that was at all. Yeah, like I said, I liked the opening when they were kids and how they met. And they even recreated like shot for shot the opening of the animated cartoon, which I really liked that. But it's like, I feel kind of like we've been talking about watching the current season of Penny Dreadful, where I'm just like, where's the scary? Like, where's the...
Yeah.
And I mean, I mentioned the previous recording that we did that I was like, typically the shtick is some mid-tier or low-level criminal pretending to be a ghost. And like, that's the formula. And so it is interesting when we do play with actual supernatural stuff. I really liked, I mean, they swung big. Like, I was not like, I bet you this movie is going to end in like a resurrected, Atropolis.
Right.
What's it called?
Acropolis.
Acropolis. There you go. I was like, that was not the right word.
You were close. You were close.
And the Skulls of Cerberus, that was ambitious. It took me aback a little bit because Cerberus is one of my favorite mythical figures, monsters. And so the notion that he's dead and decayed was weird. I was like, oh, God. And that his skulls were separated. It's just something about it was like, ooh.
This feels very mean.
Well, and also because it's like, that's not how monsters work. But
I mean,
they can be killed, but it's like he's guarding the gates to the underworld. It was lofty.
Yeah, he's already like a supernatural being. Like,
well, not in Greek mythology, because Hercules can. Well, sorry, I'm being that person.
I mean, yeah, a little.
But I liked his design. He looked like the polar bears from his Dark Materials.
He did a little, yeah.
And he was huge and glowing green, and like I said, especially by the end, there was stuff that I was like laughing at and amused by. It just was kind of. I'm so curious to know what so much of this stuff would have been like in the old world, because I think I would have been just as whelmed if we had seen this in the theaters.
Probably.
But there is something about the fact that, it's like we're watching it VOD. We're like literally just knocking it like off. We're like, check, that it just kind of, it took some of the pomp and circumstance out of it.
Yeah, that is definitely part of it. I feel like had we gone to like done our normal routine and gone to the restaurant that we go to and gotten a little bit toasted before we saw this, and then we're seeing it in a theater probably full of children who are having a really good time, I think it might have hit a little different.
That would have been, yeah. I would love to have seen this with children and or know what children think. I think the average moviegoer will be fine with this.
Yeah.
So far, my biggest complaint is that it's just not a Scooby-Doo movie. It's kind of like, I mean, it's kind of one.
Well, and I have no frame of reference to even try to rebut that. So I don't know. I do, for me, this worked better than the live action movies.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I had a much better time throughout this. I thought it was way more cohesive, despite the closing credits music, it was a lot less dated. And honestly, the Simon Cowell joke kind of helped with that. Because when did this come out? In the year 2000 or in the year 2020? Who knows?
Well, but he's not a thing in 2020.
Well, no, I know. I am aware. It's very weird. The Simon Cowell thing is definitely the worst part about this movie. But
because I'm not, by no means am I actually trying to fight with you, but I didn't find this cohesive. I found it very sort of like, we're going here, we're going there, we're going like.
I just feel like it built to the like craziest stuff. It didn't start out with the craziest stuff right at the beginning. So it felt like it. I mean, yes, they were doing like crazy, ridiculous things.
They lost me completely with the Captain Caveman. I was like,
yeah, that one was weird too. I was a little thrown by that as well. But I don't know. I dug it mostly.
I like the Peritus, Alexander the Great's dog. I thought that mythology. I bought that, and I think because we mentioned with the live action ones that both of them were sort of predicated on the group breaking up and coming back together. And I liked how this was more like Shaggy and Scooby versus the group.
Yeah.
That felt a little bit more like, okay, this feels certainly more correct for like a first outing. This movie was actually surprisingly brutal. It was several. It was very really sad.
Like multiple times. It was like, I could feel them trying to do it, so it didn't hit as much as, like, it wasn't as nuanced, so it didn't hit me. Like, I didn't start crying, but there were multiple moments where I was like, this is really tough.
Well, like
really tough.
I loved the fight because when Scoob had to take the collar off in order for his superhero suit to go on.
Yeah.
And it was like this huge thing. And then later when they were fighting about it not being a big thing, and Scoob was like, you nodded. And I was like, the nod is real. Because Shaggy did nod and tell him to go ahead and take it off. But yeah, it was interesting. I liked Christina Hendricks. There were moments. It's one of those things where it was like every third joke was actually kind of funny. And I'm sort of like it felt like a first draft of a script. Like it really needed to be punched up. And I've also, this goes in with watching the previous two movies, I am thoroughly enjoying the evolution of the homophobic joke. How they're getting much lighter as time goes by. Because when Fred realizes that Christina Hendricks was actually dastardly in disguise, he was like, I'm so confused.
I have so many conflicting feelings.
Yeah. And that was a lot cuter than Tim Blake Nielsen / Alicia Silverstone date raping that guy.
Yeah, definitely.
So
for sure.
When you follow it, like innuendo in family films through to their direct conclusion, it gets real, real graphic, real quick.
Yeah,
real yikesy, real quick. But I think if you're a family or kids or just sort of like lighthearted entertainment, I think it was fine.
Yeah.
But if you're like a passionate, like if you take this stuff serious, although, I mean, at that point, if you're a passionate Hanna-Barbera person, then maybe you would fucking love all the weird shit. So I don't know, but I'm good. I'm fine.
You're being whelmed in Europe? Okay.
I feel like you're at the same place. We're in a very sort of like,
I mean, I enjoyed it.
And are you now a super fan? A Scooby super fan?
No, I'm not. I'm definitely not a Scooby super fan. I think I would watch this one over and over and over again before I watched the live action ones. I just felt better about all of it.
I'm standing by my initial assessment. I think the second one is the best.
Of the three? All right.
You're like, are you sure?
I don't know, man. I definitely like the second one better, but I think, I don't know, something about I stand by my initial assessment too, where they certainly haven't gotten it right. I would be willing to watch new Scooby-Doo live action movies until they get it right. but I just feel like it lends itself so much better to animation.
There's a couple of them that are like, they're live action, but they're like made for TV movies with just like cute, like hot kids. And there's a part of me that I'm like, maybe they nailed it.
Maybe they nailed it. Who knows?
Nice low stakes.
Yeah.
Maybe we don't need Amanda Seyfried to make this work. But so yeah, I'm fine. I'm fine for this to be over.
I'm glad that we watched it at least.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, as always, you can follow us on Twitter at So I'm Watching, Instagram at So I'm Watching This Show. You can also follow along with our website, soimwatching.com, which links out to everything. And other than that, you can rate, review, and subscribe on iTunes or wherever you listen. And that's it for us.
I did neglect to mention Daphne's little dustbuster pet.
Very cute.
Who was either a pet or in love with her.
Both.
Oh, okay.
I mean,
you needed to pick one.
Well, I mean, I think it was more in love with her than it was a pet.
Okay, yeah, no, that's weird.
Scooby-Dooby-Doo, where are you? We got some